All right, we're recording, and we're lucky enough to have with us Sanjeev Kohli, who is a comedian, writer, and actor. He's most famous for his role as Naveed in the Scottish sitcom Still Game. He also plays Ramesh Mathew. Am I saying that right?
Mathew. Yeah.
And co-wrote the BBC radio sitcom Fags, Mags and Bags, and plays AJ Jandu in the BBC Scotland soap opera River City. He currently presents Sanjeev Kohli's Big Talk on the BBC Scotland channel, and you'll also have seen him pop up as Synthesizer Patel on spoof science show Look Around You and other sitcoms and various other things. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Nice to be here.
We were just talking about how there's no racists in Scotland.
No, there are racists in Scotland, but they're really upfront about it. They tell you, mate, I just start thinking I'm a bit racist. Just to let you know up front, I like your curries, I like the colour you go in the sun, but I don't like your chat, and I don't like how colourful your weddings are. It's that's not true. They're obviously racist here, but interestingly enough, I did a thing for the BBC Scotland in 2014. So that was the big year for Glasgow because it was the Commonwealth Games. Also, it was the big vote. Also, it was lots was going on in Glasgow that year. The Hydro just opened. It was when we did the first Still Game live show, 2014. So there's loads going on.
I went to see that. It was great.
Did you come and see it?
Yeah.
You were the one. We've been looking for you. To thank you for your continued support. No, it was magic. But
Didn't you do like 10 or something?
We did 21.
21.
21. That
Amazing.
was mental. That was mental though.
How many does that hold? 12,000?
Depends how you organise the chairs. But it can't. I think the way that we staged it, I think it was 11 or 11 and a half.
Okay.
Thousand. Fleetwood Mac, different story. Prince, different story.
That was a great gig. Did you see Prince?
Where we were sat, or stood I should say, the sound was terrible. But I'm such a Prince obsessive that it kind of didn't matter.
Yeah.
And he did 2 tunes that night that I've seen Prince 5 times, I think, 4 or 5 times, including that dance. So I've earned my stripes. And he had never done 2 of my favourite Prince songs, which are Forever in My Life and Housequake. Mm-hmm. He'd obviously done it, Housequake, on what do you call it? The film, the concert. What's it called again? Is that It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night and Adore and stuff on it. Anyway, so he's done it on
I'm
there.
obviously not as big of a fan
But,
as you
yeah,
are.
I know I said obviously there and I shouldn't have. But I'd never seen him do Housequake live. He did it. And Forever in My Life, which is a beautiful, very sparse
lovely
song. That whole album's really sparse. There's a really good documentary about Prince where they were talking about how he'd obviously, a lot of his stuff it's not overproduced, but it's just very, you can tell it's Prince. There's loads going on. I mean, you get your money's worth of Prince. But when it came to do that album, and why have I forgotten the name? Sign of the Times, thank you. Mm-hmm. He discovered an 808 machine, so it's just very, very basic beats, and if you listen to Sign of the Times, it's only really vocal. That's it, really, and a little bit of fanning about later. But when you listen to Forever in My Life, it's just him tracked with himself and that's it.
Yeah.
So it just shows what a talent he was. That's all he really needed, you know.
Yeah, totally.
He didn't really need the bells and whistles. He could still do just a very beautiful basic melody. So I think he's like Bowie in that way, where if you listen to Starman, right, it's actually a very, very basic pop tune, really. But he puts in that that little progression between the lines, and it's just he's always like for example, with Prince does. Take Me With You. Again, a beautiful basic pop song, but he puts in there's no need for it. Yeah. It's extra value. And it makes it Prince in the same way that Bowie made all his stuff Bowie. So when he does something like Forever in Your Life, which arguably anyone could have done, but they couldn't have done, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It still sounds like Prince because he's amazing.
Yeah, he is amazing.
He's amazing. So yeah, it was weird to think that we shared a stage. I didn't share a stage with him.
Yeah.
I kidded on. I did a tweet about how I had the dressing room that Prince used, and he left a floater. But Prince doesn't leave floaters. But he doesn't. Yeah, I don't think he did a shit in his life, Prince. But no, it was amazing. So that year, 2014, BBC Scotland commissioned these 4 half hours called "I Belong to Glasgow," and it was they picked myself, Karen Dunbar, Elaine C. Smith, and Alex Norton So a lot of boxes tick there. And because Alex, as you know, is Chinese. And I did a half hour with John McClaverty, who's a really, really brilliant director. I made a really funny half hour because he really gets my humour. So I mean, it was very informative as well. It was about being an Asian growing up in Glasgow, who's also born in London, had a very English accent, who got sent to a Catholic school when he was Sikh. Lots going on. But one of the things that happened as a course of that was I asked my dad, and it never occurred to me to ask him. I said, when did you feel at home in Glasgow? Mm-hmm. He said, about 20 minutes after I got here. I said, why? He said, I didn't really understand what people were saying to me, but I knew that they were well-intentioned and that they were friendly. And I think he's right. You know, I think there is, I know it's a bit of a cliche, and I'm not pretending racisms or other isms don't exist in Scotland, but I do think that Scottish people are genuinely welcoming. Mm-hmm. It sounds a bit kind of, you know, I live here, so I know it's not like I've effed off to Marbella. I'm saying, oh, it's lovely in Scotland.
Yeah.
I've only ever spent 4 months away from Glasgow, but I love the place. Yeah. And I have felt very welcome. So that isn't disingenuous. I do actually think that Glasgow is a welcoming place.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's, you know, you can speculate about why that is. But, I mean, I've seen flashes of racism when I was a child. Sometimes children learn it from their parents. Mm-hmm. But on the whole, there's a culture of acceptance in Scotland, broadly speaking.
I think so. Oh, there's always to be flashes. I mean, you know, I know people... There has been an ugly, you know, as we know, with recent fucking political climate, there's been a turn everywhere. And a friend of mine got threatened when he was leaving the mosque after Friday prayers last year. And for him, that was a real shock because nothing like that had happened in about 15 years. I'm like, oh, shite, we're going back to those days. Because what I would say is that, I'm saying Glasgow very welcoming, but, you know, there was racism. And so I'm 48 now. So if I went into town when I was, like, say, 12, 13, so, you know, early, mid-80s, I'd be surprised if someone didn't call me someone. Yeah. I was never physical violence, but someone would say something. Yeah. You just accepted it, you know, no point going on about it. But then 10 years later, I'd be surprised if someone did say something. Mm-hmm.
Did you like pick up on any campaigns to stop that happening, or what happened, do you think? Why did it shift like that?
No, I think it was just, we were the first generation to be born here. So,
yeah. So you were here?
Yeah, I mean, I was, so my mum and dad, my dad was born in India, and my mum was born she grew up in Nairobi in Kenya, massive Sikh community there. And they get married in India, arranged marriage. It was 2:00 was the ceremony, 5:00 was dancing. I do that joke every time. Doesn't get any funnier. And they moved over to England, London in '66. Yeah. So that was the year my eldest brother was born. And then my older brother was born in '69, I was born in '70. And then my dad got a place in teacher training college in Dundee in '72, I think. So then we moved up to Glasgow and we stayed in like flats in Hillhead first couple of years. Then we moved out to Bishopbriggs. That's the other thing as well is that I feel really at home in the West End of Glasgow because that's where we first moved. Yeah. So Hillhead area, it just feels like home. Always did. And then where we are now is where I went to my primary school, St Aloysius Primary, Catholic school, fee-paying Catholic school. Don't ask me why. It's like literally the primary was 5 minutes in that direction. Our shop was over there.
I meant to ask you, did you have to like pretend or pay lip service to the fact that you were interested in the Catholic faith whatsoever, or
no,
was there anything like that?
No, I don't think. I don't know. We were 3. In my memory at that time, I think the ratios changed now because I think they have to let in non-Catholics, but to keep their charitable status up or something. Don't quote me on that, but at that time, I'm pretty sure that it was my brother, me, and one other guy that were the non-Catholics in the place. And completely without any outside extrinsic force, I absolutely inhaled Catholicism because I quite liked all the pomp and ceremony. And what was strange was because my mum and dad are from a Sikh background, but quite liberal. So we would go to the Sikh temple on a Sunday, which again wasn't that far from here. It was Nithsdale Road. And we would go there on a Sunday, and that was kind of where I met my brown pals. But during the week in Bishopbriggs, which is a pretty white area, and I was going to St Al's, which is obviously a very white school. That was where my kind of everyday pals were, and I guess just to fit in as well. I mean, I would go to extra mass and stuff. I mean, during Lent, I would go to extra mass. I would do Lent just out of sympathy with my pals. I find it quite sweet now because I know people that will do Ramadan with their Muslim pals, just to kind of out of empathy, really.
That's really interesting. Like, I feel like there's all sorts of reasons why people find religion enjoyable or comforting or whatever, and from someone who was like is like in the out group of the out group, I can see why you would find it extra comforting and inclusive.
Yeah, completely. And so, like I say, I would go to extra mass. I mean, I went to last time I was in a Catholic service was a funeral, Gerard Kelly's funeral actually. Gerard Kelly, who played Father Henderson in Fags, Mags and Bags, still my favourite character. And,
very funny guy. He
very
was
funny guy.
Big figure in my youth.
Oh, well,
watching him on
City Lights,
the sketch show,
and of course the Young Ones.
Yeah,
he has a fleeting appearance in the Young Ones, and then that's the thing with Gerard Kelly is that I guess
extras as well.
Well, I was going to say because obviously in Glasgow he's known for doing the King's Theatre Panto, and he's an utter revelation. I mean, I think he's almost single-handedly dragged Panto back into being acceptable art form. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of the effort he put into it. But then I'd rather see him in extras.
Yeah.
Just being absolutely, he's just brilliant, just brilliant. And when we'd first written Fags, Mags and Bags, I'd wanted to have a real good religion because I knew so much about it, right? I knew so much about the Catholic faith and Christianity generally because I'd lapped it up as a kid and then rejected it. That's the best way to do it. Imbibe it and then reject it.
Yeah, I was raised in Protestant faith.
Yes.
So, I found my work ethic by the time I was 10 and rejected it by the time I was 12.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're was it a Protestant work ethic and Catholic tastes?
That's it.
Yeah.
We do have lovely relics.
Smashing relics. Oh, it's a full day with scone and disabled toilets. Fantastic. So I had wanted to have a go at religion. A religion that I could have a go at without, getting stabbed. And obviously Christianity is still just about the majority religion here. We knew we could have a go. And I felt that I had the authority to do it because I knew so much about it. So we wrote this character, Father Henderson. And it was very loosely based on... there was a Father Henderson that taught at St. Aloysius. He was a lovely guy. And he spoke like this. If you go to a pizza shop... I don't know why he pronounced pizza, but he did. If you go to a pizza shop, you have a choice of pizzas, don't you? And it's the free will that allows you to choose the pizza that you want. You can choose any topping that you want. I think, remember he did this whole bit about,
free will and pizza.
Yeah, free will and pizza. He had a good point, But he, lovely guy. And we'd actually used him, first of all, in a show that Donnie and I... The show that's kind of the progenitor of Fags, Mags and Bags is a show called Lunchtime Tonight, which was on Radio Scotland. And it was a spoof, really, of Scotland Today, but on the radio. Because we couldn't really do a spoof news programme without it being on the hour.
Yeah.
And therefore the day to day.
Yeah.
And no one's going to do that better than Armando Iannucci and Chris Morris. So to try... I mean... We would have aped it anyway, but to try and stay from exactly that ground, we thought we'll have a go at a more lifestyle show, Scotland Today, which had a GP and a lawyer. And,
like a kind of magazine show.
Yeah. So we had a go at that, and so we'd write these spoof news reports, and one of them was about a priest, Father Henderson. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. He took Jean-Michel Jarre to court because... I'd gone to see Jean-Michel Jarre, me and Father Richmond. A lot of priests like the prog rock and big light shows. They asked me why. So anyway, I'm there, right, and I'm standing on Father Richmond's. I'm sitting on Father Richmond's shoulders. I've got my top off and I'm pointing a bit. And one of Jean-Michel Jarre's lasers goes right to my eye. And what it does is it improves his eyesight so much that when he's administering communion, you can see ladies' bras and that. So it's a really elaborate kind of setup for this joke about, how am I supposed to administer the Holy Communion? I can see ladies' bits. and I did it as this Father Henderson that actually taught me. So we used him a couple of times. We did this other report about there were these freelance exorcists that were going around Glasgow offering their services. And it turned out what they would, again, this is really mental, what they've been doing was they've been breaking into people's houses and filling the water boiler with undiluted quash so that the children would hover. And then they would say, oh, is your child hovering? What you need is an exorcist. So they're creating their own exorcism work. So Father Henderson was involved in that, right? So he'd used them a couple of times. So when Fags, Mags and Bags came around, I said, look, I really, really want to play Father Henderson, right? So obviously I'm playing Ramesh already. Can I play two main-ish characters? And the producer said, you can't really play, if there were two peripheral characters, fine, but you can't do a main character and peripheral character. So I said, well, who do you get to play Father Henderson? And he said, what about Jared Kelly? I said, yeah, good luck getting him. And we got him, and he was an utter revelation. He played it very differently to the way I would have played it, but so much better. And we would just throw him really, really tortuous dialogue, and he would just knock it out of the park every time. He was such a joy, and not starry in the slightest. Really great work ethic, and just a nice guy. My only regret was that because Donnie and I had most of the lines, we were intended to be in the studio when they were all doing the chat in the green room waiting. So I never really got a chance to hang out with him as much as I'd like to have done. But brilliant man. And so yeah, that was the last time I was in church, was for his funeral, and I knew every single word, and I hadn't been to mass in maybe 15, 20 years.
Wow.
So it's obviously in a drawer.
Yeah.
In there. And so how did we get onto that?
I have no idea.
So Jared Kelly, Walking Back with Jared Kelly, Catholicism, Outsider.
Yeah. And then no racism in Scotland.
No racism in Scotland.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, I suppose that's the other thing, actually, while we're on it, is that the entire time I was at St. Al's, I can only really remember 2 or 3 racist incidents, and to call them incidents would be too much as well. I remember once there was a guy, and he was a complete arsehole, and he was called Kevin Boyle, and I hope he's fucking listening, because he was an arsehole. We were on the bus to rugby, and he was telling this joke, and he said, and it was a joke that was doing the rounds at the time. There were 2 or 3 Stevie Wonder jokes that were doing the rounds, right?
Yeah.
They come in clusters, right? And there were 2 or 3 Stevie Wonder jokes, one of which was, what does Stevie Wonder's wife do when she gets annoyed with him? Rearranges the furniture, right? And the other one was Stevie Wonder is talking to a journalist, and the journalist says, what's it like to be blind? And he says, well, at least I'm not black. Okay? So
I remember that one.
Yeah. And what's annoying about that joke is it's actually quite clever in a way, because it's about, but it just, there's no way you can frame that joke to make it acceptable.
If he told it.
If he told it, yes, exactly. But not Kevin Boyle. Right?
No.
So Kevin Boyle tells this joke, and then, now that wasn't a joke he told. I'm telling a lie. He told a joke about a guy who was given 3 wishes. That's what it was. He told a joke about a guy that was given 3 wishes, and on the 3rd wish, he opens his door, and there's 50 guys from the Ku Klux Klan on horseback with a noose and a burning torch. He says, "No, sorry, I want to be hung like a darkie." Right? So Kevin Boyle tells that joke, and he looks at me and says, "No offence." So I'm supposed to none taken. I was raging, but I couldn't really do anything, because then you're the arsehole if you object. Just having a bit of fucking lighten up. What's the problem here? So that and a couple of other things was the sum total of all the racism really that I got at school. And I think that maybe it's because a lot of the guys that went there, and it was an old boys' school until I was in primary 7. So a lot of the boys and then girls that came were 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation Italian and Irish. Yeah. So I felt a real kinship there. And I think that was maybe why. Maybe I've got a skewed version of race politics in Glasgow. But
well, I mean, I grew up in Jordan Hill, which is a kind of leafy suburb in the West End, where you couldn't be more establishment. It's mainly kind of Protestants and Rangers fans, and
a lot of bank managers. when it was a thing, yeah. Because it isn't a thing anymore. Bank managers it used to be a staple of sitcoms, but you don't really. Weirdly, did you watch Fleabag?
Love Fleabag.
There's a bank manager in Fleabag.
That's right, yeah, Hugh Dennis.
And I remember thinking that's almost like a wee throwback, because you used to see bank managers in every sitcom. Yeah. And it was a bank manager that the husband had to impress and da-da-da. Yeah. But that was the first bank manager I'd seen in a sitcom in ages.
Yeah, it's funny, there's a lot of doctors, lawyers. I don't remember any bank managers, actually, but there was My friend Arman, his dad had a couple of shops.
Yeah.
My friend Darren Danda, his parents, were, I think, their parents had come over from India.
Uh-huh.
And there was, a couple of other people, but there wasn't that many people who weren't white.
Yeah. Same as Bishop Briggs, actually.
Yeah. And I think from speaking to them about it, their experience was similar to yours. Yeah, they got some verbal, which isn't okay, but there was nothing really serious, which is interesting, I guess.
The thing is, we're not far from the Shields here, from Paulette Shields, and that's had its moments.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously, I think maybe when there's enough, in this case, Asians, to reach a sort of critical mass where they may be seen as a threat.
Sure.
That's maybe when you'll start to get that kind of tension.
Maybe seen as a threat, and also a large enough group to fight back if there is a problem.
Yeah. And to have the confidence to do that. I mean, I would never have had the confidence to. I think I call it kind of suitcase syndrome, where even a lot of people of my generation, and I know definitely from my parents' generation, it was almost like they didn't fully open their suitcase. So it was almost like we're maybe not going to be here forever, so we're never really going to be accepted. And then the position we're in is, well, I was born here. I was born in London, but born in Britain.
Yeah.
And I like the stuff you like. I like the same music you like. I like the same football that you like. I think I belong here, but I'm still on the back foot a wee bit because I know that you see me as different, and it's also informed the way that I behave in everyday life, because I only worked it out recently that I'm a bit of a people pleaser. And actually being in Asian my generation, you kind of are anyway, because you've got a lot of people to please. You've got a tight family structure. There's a big old emphasis on education and, getting a degree and all that. So you're pleasing other people. But also just, and this comes back to the shop as well, actually. Like, I would see my mum serving in the shop. The thing about my mum is, I mean, she was well educated. She trained as a teacher. Her English was impeccable, and I think it surprised people because she would wear like a shalwar kameez, like Punjabi outfit, but her English was brilliant. And if you're not used to that, it can be a bit jarring. I mean, I find it jarring when I see an Asian with a Dublin accent, for example. It's still, I remember being utterly thrown by that, and then I got used to it. So when people come into my mum's shop and you could see they were thrown by it, and she was a social worker. She trained as a social worker, so she could help them with stuff. And I always remember once it was someone had asked for something, and I said, "Do you want a bag?" And then Mum said, "No, you say, do you wish a bag?" She picked me up on English, and I just felt that. I think she felt like she represented Asians everywhere, and then I took that on board. Mm-hmm. So I would be overly polite to people to make a good impression, so that they would think well of Asians. Genuinely,
that's a burden, isn't it?
A little bit, and then more recently, more latterly, I'm nice to people. I think my default setting is to be nice to people, but I think part of it as well now is, apart from the Asian thing, because we're quite established now, and I'll accept that you might meet 10 Asians today, and one will be nice, one will be a prick, one will be a beekeeper. You got more of a range now. Now it's, I don't want them to think that because I'm off the telly I'm a dick. So there's an element of that going on as well. In fact, I wrote a sketch for, it never got used, but Donnie and I used to write for Camden Bar's sketch show. So that was after Chewing the Fat, which I also wrote for. And I'd love for it to have been used. I don't know why it wasn't, but so the idea was that Karen played this woman at a party, and she spots someone famous at the party. Say, for example, someone from River City. So I think maybe someone like Libby MacArthur or
she was my drama teacher in 6th year in high school.
Oh wow! Yeah. What school was that?
Jordan Hill.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
She was doing that for a year.
Yeah.
Lovely woman.
She was really, really nice. So she'd have been a good fit for this sketch. So she'd be at this party, and then Camden Bar says, "All right, River City, is it? Yeah. So how do you know Janice? Oh, my sister works at IBM, so they used to work at the reception together. All right. And she always try and trip her up and try to make her starry, but she's really, really nice. Everything she comes back with is really nice. So eventually Libby McCarthy says, I'm just going to get a drink. Do you want a drink? No, you're right. So Libby McCarthy goes off and Karen say, who the fuck does she think she is? Despite everything.
Yeah.
This weirdly happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was coming back from a flight, from London on a flight, a BA flight. And because it was paid for, I thought I'm going to have a drink. Because normally I have to pay for my flights and I pay EasyJet, but this was a job, so they pay for transport. So I don't normally have a drink on a flight. I thought, fuck, I'll have a gin and tonic. So, and this is how the conversation went. So the steward's there, I'm middle seat, and I said, can I have a ploughman sandwich and can I have a gin and tonic? And he said, oh, right, would you like plain tonic or cucumber tonic? I said, oh, cucumber tonic if you have it. Certainly, sir. That was the extent of the conversation, right?
Yes.
2 days later, someone tweets me, did you get your fucking gin and tonic after all the fucking fuss you made about it?
What?
And I just let it go. I said, he's having a laugh. And he came back again. I fucking well seen you kicked up a stink. Did you get your gin and tonic?
What?
They came back a third time. I think maybe you're just fishing for a reaction here, and I'm not going to give you the pleasure.
Yeah.
Either that, or have you got weird glasses on that distort, some weird celebrity thing where you want me to be a dick and I've disappointed you? Because
do you know, was it the person who served you?
No,
or was it someone around
you? It was a punter. It was someone else who was on the flight, and there were 4 other. I mean, it was a flight to Glasgow. But there was 4 people that were on. I remember thinking trouble, but they never said anything to me. I suspect it might be one of them, but I didn't chase down the hole to find out.
Funny that it's like so you see that all the time, and people getting kind of blocked on Twitter, usually Twitter, for being overly familiar in a way that if it was your friend might be funny, but out of context, it's just abuse. Because you can't, that's the whole point is context, is knowing what you can get away with. Yeah. Like I know when I'm with Donnie, we don't do it so much anymore, but we do that kind of Sadovitz thing of being as offensive as you can be. Yeah. Not because you believe what you're saying, but because there's an art in shocking someone. Yeah. And Donnie still retains it. He still come up with stuff like, where the fuck did that come from? Yeah. Round of cricket applause. Don't ever say that outside this room. Yeah. But we know the rules. Yeah. So you have to know the rules, don't you? And if you don't know the person, you don't know the rules. I guess it's the same as stand-up, isn't it? It's if people paid money to see you and they know what you're about, then. But it's incredibly subtle. Though there was a really, really interesting thread on. This was a few years ago now, but it was this comedy website, and there was a thread about someone had gone to see Jimmy Carr. Yeah. And they said, is he being ironic or is he just being offensive? What he'd done was, I think he was comparing an event, and it was for the Irish. It was actually called the Irish Terriers Association. I think it was like a union sort of thing. Uh-huh. And he'd gone up. He said, "Well, that's all the road to Tom. Why don't you all fuck off back to Ireland?" And mixed response, right? And the guy said, "No, I think that he thought it would be funny to be offensive because he was. It wasn't like he was in a room full of beer swilling, like kind of John Bulls and having a go at Irish Terriers. He was in a room with people of Irish descent. But there was this whole thing about but he says other stuff and and then people started talking about Bernard Manning, and he said the difference is whether you believe what you're saying. And he said, this guy said, I get dragged to see Bernard Manning at the Embassy Club a few years ago. It was a brother-in-law's leaving to do one of them things. Yeah. He had to go. He couldn't not go. And it's exactly what you'd expect. He said, but about half an hour before the end of the act, Bernard Manning sort of changed his tone. He said, you're a good lot. Yeah, salt of the earth. Kept saying salt of the earth. I know a lot of you paid good money to be here tonight. You could do other things. You could have been at home watching telly. Paid money. Come and see me tonight. It's not cheap. You bought drinks. It's not cheap. You got papers. It's not cheap. Salt of the earth. Really appreciate it. Without you, I'm nothing. Couple more jokes. But yeah, salt of the earth. Love you people. Salt of the earth. More jokes. And then at the end he says, so remember, thanks for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. Remember, keep your friends white. Left the stage. So I don't think there's any argument that he believed what he was saying. So there's your context for you. Jeez. But that's that thing. You have to know. Comedy's such a tightrope, and it's really, really. It's like that Danny Baker thing. Yeah. I mean, I think I know Danny Baker's comedy well enough to know that there was no racist intent. Yeah. It was just clumsy. Yeah. And
And then, of course, with social fucking networking being what it is, it's like, oh, right, so all you left-leaning liberals think that's fine for Danny Baker to say something like that, but if someone else said it, I said, well, yeah, actually, because we know Danny Baker's politics and we know how he's framed that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's used those old images before for other things. So, yeah, you can accuse him of being slightly clumsy, but I don't think you can accuse him of much more.
Yeah.
But the minute you say that, people think that, oh, right, so it's one rule for you and one rule for us sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a fucking minefield.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a real attempt sometimes to point score from all angles. So you don't really feel like you're getting people's real opinion on anything now.
Yeah.
Half the time.
Virtue signalling.
Exactly.
Is there more fucking offensive? Because the thing is, some people, I see it sometimes when people are being a bit, it's a bit like that thing of, why did you give to charity? Was it, to be seen to be give to charity? I mean, we all know people that very loudly give to charity and other people that, like Prince, coming back to Prince.
Never told anyone.
Never told anyone.
Jehovah's Witness, I think, which
you're
not allowed to, right?
Yeah, but also he didn't want anyone to know, and it was only after he died that his business partner said, look, Prince never wanted anyone to know this, but he used to put on charity gigs wherever he went and all the rest of it. So yeah, I know that there is, some people do virtue signal, but a lot of the time they're just trying to, just actually align their moral compass, because it's going fucking haywire at the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally. And I think the internet's one of those things that is a double-edged sword. You get all of this information, but it means at the same time, you're getting a lot of misinformation. I mean, there's a lot of virtue signaling goes on around food, for example. Like, I kind of try and make it crystal clear that I had a very sort of Damascene transformation by changing the way I ate, and that it works for me, and there's certain other people it works for, and it could work for other people. But listen, if you've got reasons for not wanting to do it, then who am I to say any different?
Yeah.
And I think that's hard to remember, because we feel very comfortable in these echo chambers online, and just massaging each other's egos and opinions, and in the end you just end up being a recruiter a lot of the time, instead of someone who's engaging in genuine conversations. And I mean, like, we've had a few people in who don't eat the kind of paleo or low carb or anything like that, and they're talking about sort of their experience of exactly the same thing from people who eat like they do. But it's been really interesting, because I meant to ask you about your experience growing up where your parents were Indian, and whether, like, what the food was like when you were growing up, because I know that it's a kind of misconception that the whole of India is vegetarian or anything. It's just certain parts, and I'm curious because I love Indian food, and I don't know whether you kind of what your parents did. Did they like pass that on to you, or were they wary to not impose their culture, or what happened?
Well, what's interesting was that, and you'll find this with a lot of Asians of my generation, is that we were slightly ashamed of our culture because it made us feel different.
Yeah.
I remember when they first started showing Bollywood films on Channel 4. It was not long after Channel 4 started, so it must have been about 82, 83. And they showed a film called Sholay, which is basically, they call it a curry western. It's like a spaghetti western, but in India. Amazing song out of that. Ye Dosti, or there's a couple of all the songs from that era are brilliant. But
around a campfire.
Oh yes, and she's making a dancing glass.
Yes,
because that's in Rita Sue and Bob too.
I love that film.
Because Govinda Gill takes her to the cinema and says, "Would you dance in glass for me?" Fuck off.
That's right. Yeah. I love that song.
That's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Oh God, I've forgotten that is a lovely song though.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful song, full of like those violins and.
Oh, it's amazing. It's just like I've got goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah. If you like that, you should listen to a song called Dum Mare Dum, which is pure funk.
Okay.
Dum Mare Dum. Wow, wow, dum, 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 wow, wow, dum. It's amazing.
Just coming off the back of the 70s.
Absolutely brilliant. And it's Asha Bhosle, so it's like the there were basically two female playback singers all through the 70s and 80s. Sisters Lata Mangeshkar and Asha Bhosle, who was the subject of Brimful of Asha.
Oh yeah.
Corner Shop. And
Corner Shop are a great band.
Fantastic. Way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Tajinder Singh always reminded me of me in a way, because we grew up, I'll come back to your question in a minute, but we grew up in, so like I say, there was me and Bishop Briggs with my two big brothers. And I don't even know why this happened. Because I always say this, that, you know, like a lot of my pals, they got into the Beatles and the Stones or MC5 or Climby Fisher through their parents.
Yeah.
You know, the parents had a vinyl collection, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, ABBA, whatever it was.
Yeah.
We didn't really have that. We had a Volvo which had an ABBA 8-track in it, because everyone loves ABBA, as they should.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't really discover a lot of music. I discovered it through my brothers. Randy, my eldest brother, his best pal at school, his dad had been into Deep Purple. So then Randy got into Deep Purple, and then I got into Deep Purple. So when I was 11 years old, I'm listening to Deep Purple and Gillan and Rainbow, and then for some bizarre reason, the other kind of Sikh families in Glasgow, one of whom stayed near Crossmaloof, was into Rush, and so they were into prog rock, and so there were all these Sikh families in Glasgow into heavy metal and prog rock. I don't quite know why that happened, so I kind of feel a bit like Tajinder from Corner Shop in that way, because I know he obviously had the same, you know, heavy metal to disco, and he had that same experience growing up in Leicester, being a real sort of outsider. Whereas obviously his Punjabi is brilliant when he does Jalandhar Sher. Have you heard Jalandhar Sher?
No.
It's a rock and roll song done entirely in Punjabi, with a really, really cool kick beat. And he's singing.
Not on the album, the first album.
I think it's
Big Breakthrough one. Because I've listened to that
when
a
I was
lot,
born
but
for
I
the
don't know
seventh time. Was it there was one album that had Jalandhar Sher and Sleep on the Left Side, which Mark Radcliffe used to use as a musical bed on his Radio 1 show. And what was the other song? Also, he does Norwegian Wood entirely in Punjabi.
Yeah. I love that version.
Yeah. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of respect. In fact, I wrote a screenplay based kind of on that. Do you remember Babylon Zoo? Are you old enough to remember?
Space Man.
Yeah. So the singer at Babylon Zoo is a guy called Jazz Man.
Yeah, I remember Jazz Man.
From Coventry, from a Sikh family, you know, in
he had
just
some wacky ideas.
Oh, he was out there, and he was a bit of a. He got done by Chris Morris in Brass Eye. Have you ever written a spherical song? They call you the Puff Pastry Hangman. That was Jazz Man. So right. It's a shame, because I do think, again, you know, a bit of a visionary of a generation that were just old enough to vocalize what, you know. So they were kind of almost like the first Asians that dared not to be into Bhangra or R&B. Yeah. They were into different shit, you know. Clearly very Bowie influenced, right? Which is no bad thing. So
I was in a Bollywood film.
You were in a Bollywood film?
I was in a Bollywood film, yeah. I'd not long left school. It was like, I think the year 2000, and a friend of a friend was working in a hotel in town where the whole cast and crew was staying for a film called, and I'm going to mangle this, but it was called Pyar Ishq Mohabbat.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which I think was quite a large production at the time.
In Glasgow?
In Glasgow.
Yeah.
And I think the characters were in Glasgow University, and so yeah, I was an extra for a few days, but also like they got me to hang back and went to the stately home in Ayrshire, which was meant to be part of the uni in the film, and there was only like a couple of us, and so I'm quite prominently on the screen for about 15 seconds.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I do like a watch look. The director didn't even tell me to do that. And I'm like, well, I actually went to India when I was 17, and I'm thinking now that there's no way I could go back. You know, I'll be mobbed. But that's my that's my Bollywood claim to fame. Cool. 15 seconds on.
That's 15 seconds more than I've done. I did. They filmed. I used to work in a show called Ghetto Blasting. It was a Radio Scotland magazine show aimed at the multicultural communities. But they were filming a Bollywood film in Dundee. Mm-hmm. This must be about 96, 97. And I couldn't tell you what it was called, but the two main stars were Madhuri Dixit, who I guess was kind of the equivalent of maybe Michelle Pfeiffer. Mm-hmm. Stunningly beautiful, amazing dancer, really good actress. Did a lot of these trashy Bollywood films, but just clearly very talented. And the main man was Akshay Kumar, who's probably the equivalent of maybe Tom Cruise at the time. And they're filming in Dundee, and the production base was a semi-detached house in Dundee. So one half was a production base, one half was makeup and costume. But it was like they must have thought, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
And so I went along and I interviewed Akshay Kumar in this guy's front room in Dundee. So just had the basic recording equipment. I did the interview. He was fine, quite starry, but all right, Wearing a t-shirt, a child's t-shirt, popping all over the place.
Yeah.
Amazing hair. And so we sort of finished the interview. I said, well, Akshay, thank you for your time and good luck with this film. Thank you, Sanjeev, thank you. Buddy, thank you. Shukriya bahut, thank you. End of interview, right? And I said, well, that's everything, right? The thing was that we didn't quite know what to do next, because I think he was waiting for someone to tell him what to do.
Right.
So he's just sort of sat there, and the telly had been on mute the whole time.
Yeah.
And so he's just sort of picked up the remote control and started channel hopping. And he settled on, it was Roadrunner. And we sat and watched Roadrunner silently for 3 minutes. Me and Akshay Kumar, until someone took him to costume for his next change. It was one of the most uncomfortable times. Neither of us knew what to do. But then I think he was like, I'm the star.
You take your cue from them.
You know what? You're going to watch fucking Roadrunner with me. That was funny. But yeah, I wonder if it's the same film you're talking about.
Find out the name of the stars.
Well, there's I worked on a film called a show called Bombay Blush back in 2001, 2002, and it was like funny stories from the subcontinent. And part of that was talking about how a lot of Bollywood films were being filmed abroad. Yeah. So they filmed in Switzerland, France, Germany, Switzerland, UK, and they had a clip of a film filmed in Argyle Street. So you've got, it might have been Akshay Kumar or Akshay Khanna, one of the big stars at the time, giving it proper like Bollywood moves in the precinct in Argyle Street, right? But it was and it looked amazing. It could have been any city really in Europe. It looked amazing. But it was such a wide angle shot that there was a granny here. Guys like that. Just kind of looking like this is hilarious. It was in the final cut. This confused
That's
granny.
Brilliant.
Watching him giving these big licks.
I'm just looking at the stars of Pyari Shkar Mohabbat. Sunil Shetty.
Okay, yes.
Aftab Shivdasani.
No idea.
Arjun Rampal.
Yes, he was a model turned actor, I think.
Yeah, so it was him and Sunil Shetty, I think, that were there and Kirti Reddy. But they were so nice. It was like a all night shoot.
Oh,
and we were just sitting around. Who are we? Nobody. And they were chatting away to us. Oh. They were dead nice. It was a really good experience. And then it wasn't until, because I had no idea how big the production was, but then I was driving past this shop on Woodland Road. I think it's still there. It's called Bollywood.
Ah, yeah.
And it used to do all the videos and everything.
Next to Decent Sweets.
Decent Sweets.
Yes.
Yeah. And there was a poster these people that I'd met were on the poster. Yes. So I was like, can I have the video of the people on the poster?
And that's the first time you watched it then?
Yeah. And I saw myself on the VHS. And now it's on YouTube. You can see it. I'll put it in the show notes.
I'm looking that up. Yeah, give us a time code and everything.
Yeah.
No, make them watch the whole film. No, they should watch the whole film.
If there's subtitles, it's it's worth it just for the singing and dancing.
Yeah.
There's a couple of classics in there. But yeah, that was a good time. I was gonna. So I need to ask you, or I want to ask you, because I've kind of done vlogs and spoken about how my mental health got a lot better when I changed certain things, like what I ate, drinking less, getting exercise, talking to a counsellor, that sort of thing. And you've spoken about your experience with depression.
Yeah.
And how it's kind of gone up and down. I mean, maybe you could talk about that, and also what's your opinion on whether you think comedy attracts or makes depressives?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, because I don't know if it is cause or effect. I don't know whether...
So that should say that we met each other because you were my brother's neighbour.
Yes.
At first, and then we met each other because I was doing stand up,
Yes.
and you were comparing that
That's
gig.
right, yeah.
And then we did a sketch together,
Yeah.
and now sort of correspond, every once in a while,
Yeah.
and sort of stay in touch.
Yeah.
But I felt drawn to comedy, and I know that a lot of other people in comedy suffer from depression.
Yeah. I mean, from my own personal experience, I was chatting to someone about this the other day. I remember being primary 6, I think it was, and we're playing football just before school. I was pretty quiet at school. I was very studious, top of the class sort of guy. I wouldn't say boo to a goose, which is awkward because we had a school goose. They would say boo to. I've nicked my own line from Fags, Mags and Bags.
You didn't really have a school goose.
No, we didn't have a school goose. I'd love to go to school that had a goose, and I'd say boo to it. I would. But I was very, very quiet and studious, and but I remember playing football was some pals, and Brian Rooney said, I've got a joke. And I remember thinking, I've got a joke as well, but I'll let Brian tell his joke first. And Brian's joke was, so Bucks Fizz had just won Eurovision. Mm-hmm. So it's that year, 81. And he said, where are Bucks Fizz going on holiday? They haven't made their minds up yet. Okay? And I thought, I'm not going to... And I got a laugh. I said, I'm not going to tell my joke, which was, I just saw a documentary last night about someone frying an egg. It was called Panorama. So at that age, I'm doing really tortuous puns already. And I thought, nah, I'll do that. But I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. And we, in the house, Punjabi culture is quite loud and raucous and funny. And as quiet as I was, there was always stuff going on. And my cousins were really funny. And my brother was always loud and funny. And I would just kind of observe, really. But there's always kind of comedy going on. And we used to watch a lot of comedy and record it. We were the first family in our street to have a VCR, so it was all music and comedy. We'd tape like the Old Grey Whistle Test, I would tape The Young Ones, I would tape the Kenny Everett television show, the Two Ronnies, any comedy that was on, and watch the living fuck out of it over and over and over again. Not only through interest, and I was known in the school playground as the Young Ones bore, because if the Young Ones came on the telly, I was on the one going around, who saw the Young Ones last night? Did you see the Young Ones last night? I got bored myself, to be fair. I don't know where the impetus came from. And I remember always being quite anxious as a kid and worrying about my mum dying, worrying about where the universe ended, having this kind of recurring nightmare about floating into space. That's me floating into space, about that speed.
That's the tragedy of floating into space. Is it would be at that speed and there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you do about it. I think that was the issue. But I was always quite anxious and very diffident, not confident in who I was, not confident in my own skin. I remember couldn't wait to leave school, because that's the thing about school as well is that you are the person the day you go into school. You are that person till the day you leave. You're not really allowed to change. I remember one because I went in as studious guy, hair like that, and national glasses, and by about first or second year, I discovered clothes and music, and I was kind of getting cooler, more with it. But I was still that guy. Mm-hmm. I remember once in third year, I put mousse in my hair and nearly got laughed out of school. So reverted back. You're not allowed to change. They're not going to let you change. Yeah, you got to leave this place. And I did. So I left in fifth year, and I actually had. So I was going to be a doctor. So I got my hires.
You got higher results.
Got my 6 hires, because that's who I was. But I was too young to get into uni, so they said just to spend a year constructively. So rather than go around the country or picking cockles on the beach, I did A levels. I went to Langside College. There. And that was the year that I kind of felt I was starting to find my voice and could wear my own clothes. Yeah. But I was still very quiet and shy. Mm-hmm. Still not very confident. Still didn't really have any real friends. Mm-hmm. Felt that really painfully. And that was the first year, I'd say, that, although I wouldn't have called it that at the time, that I had my first episode of depression. Mm-hmm. Because it was that Christmas, I just felt utterly worthless. Didn't feel like I had any pals. relied on my brothers and my cousins for social life. Who needs to do that? And I just didn't want to get out of my bed for that whole 4 weeks that I was off, and I did, and I went back to college and I kind of got my head together. But that must have been my first proper episode, I think, of depression.
Did you notice that it came along in winter more?
No. My last episode of depression happened this time last year.
Right.
Which is weird. But yeah, no, I don't think it was seasonal. I mean, I do get SAD completely.
Yeah, me too.
I
used to get it a lot more intensely.
I do wonder that if we all lived the life we lead in Barcelona, would we? I don't know. It's speculation, but whenever I'm in a warm climate, I just feel just better.
Yeah.
And there's definitely something in that. I've also got another theory, which is, how most of our childhood memories are the sun shining.
Yeah.
I think that sunshine or natural light actually helps the memory. Mm-hmm. I think that's what happens. I think it's that way around. I don't think we're selectively editing sunny days as our kind of memory portfolio. I think actually it's sunshine that somehow, I'm completely speculating here, I think sunshine somehow aids the memory. Just a theory.
Interesting. But, I think it might be a warmth thing. Like I can remember one of my favourite memories is getting pushed around in a buggy with the rain coming down, but I've got one of those clear covers.
Aye.
And I think there's a millionaire waiting to be made where they do an app where it's like Uber but for buggies for adults.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where you can get sort of pushed around.
Yes, adult. Yeah.
And fall asleep.
Yeah, completely.
Safe and warm. And I think like the literal warmth of the sun is the same sort of thing. You're being nourished, somehow. And I reckon, you cling on to those moments.
Yeah.
Also the fact that, it provides vitamin D and
yes,
is important.
That was my mum did she used to work for Bernardo's for a while, and there's this big campaign. A lot of Asian women were not getting, they were staying indoors a lot, they weren't getting vitamin D from the sunlight. But weirdly, also chapati flour absorbs vitamin D. Have you heard this?
I know that certain refined flours and vegetable oils massively deplete your vitamin D.
So there was this kind of, I wouldn't say epidemic, but rickets was a bit of a thing in the Asian community for that reason. Just when you said vitamin D there, it just reminded me of that. So, but I don't know. I think I've always said my default setting is down. I'm always down on myself. If you look at my career, right, every single stage, right, the whole reason I got into the media in the first place was that someone phoned me up and said, do you want to audition to present a radio show? I think you'd be good at it, right? The only reason I started writing comedy was someone said, we're decommissioning that show that you present, but we're making a sketch show. Do you fancy having a go at writing sketches? The only reason I started acting was someone said, I think you'd be good in that. Every stage, I've never ever pushed for anything myself. I've always been quite passive and, all right, I'll give that a go. Oh, I'm good at this. Because I watched loads of comedy as a kid and I understand the mechanics. I didn't realise that was my where I was doing my learning, but that's where it was. So, I'm a bit of a mystery to myself. I clearly am quite a depressive person who really loved comedy. So,
and an intelligent person. There's a lot of really
maths as well,
smart people in comedy, right?
There's a lot of maths and music. Because math and music obviously are very closely interlinked. So there's a lot of, I think, math, music, and comedy.
It's like a pattern recognition.
Well, good comedy is jazz, isn't it? I mean, I did a podcast. You know the guys, Joe Morris and Jason Hazley.
No.
That write. So basically, they're brilliant comedy writers. They write Philomena Kunk and they've worked with Charlie Brooker through the years.
Right, didn't know that.
Yeah, and they wrote the Penguin, the hipster and the Hangover and all the Penguin books. So they wrote them as well. Really, really funny, nice guys that work on loads and loads of good comedies. And they do a podcast called Rule of Three where they get someone in to talk about comedies that they like. And I was explaining to them that they were saying, you love Twitter, don't you? I said, well, I have this thing about puns and I don't know why I like them. That whole panorama thing. I was fucking 11 years old.
Yeah.
Like that, Dennis Norden at 11. Why? I don't understand why I like puns. I don't, and I was saying to them, I don't even know. Like, obviously, with a lot of humour, there's a anthropological reason why we find things funny. So if someone falls over in the street, you're laughing because it wasn't you, right?
Yeah.
I get that. That's the relief of it not being you. I get Schadenfreude. Again, it's the relief that it wasn't you. But what is the possible? Because I was explaining that's why it came up. That's what it was. My wee boy was going out guising at Halloween a few years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "What's your joke?" He said, "I don't have one." I said, "What? We're just expecting to give him sweeties. What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? Instagram generation. You're not an influencer." And I said, he said, "Oh, here's my joke." He said, "Why did the chicken cross the road? Because he was a Mr. Poohead." Okay. I said, "Okay, Vinny, I understand why you think that's a joke, but it's not a joke. Why?" Okay, right. And I'm thinking, oh, why is it not a joke? Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let me tell you a joke, and then I'll explain why it's a joke, and then you'll understand. So I'm thinking, right, what joke can I tell my 7-year-old son? Okay, right. Why did the skeleton not go to the party? I don't know. He had no body to go with.
Classic.
Right? And he said, why is that a joke? I said, why is that a joke? Because it means two things. No body means no physical body.
Yeah.
No body means no one. And he said, why is that funny? I said, just do the poohead joke. I don't even know anymore. And then I was saying to the boys, I said, what is it about puns then and double meanings? And they said that it's about pattern spotting. It's like for a tribe to succeed.
Yeah.
It's to be able to spot a pattern, and there's a satisfaction in spotting the pattern. Equally, the element of surprise in a joke is do you know the joke about the guy with an orange for a head?
No.
Do you know that joke? Okay, this is a total acid test for people's sense of humour, right? Someone told me this joke, and he said, I'm going to tell you this joke, and you'll either slap me in the back or stab me in the face. Okay? So I'll tell you a kind of truncated version of this joke. So there's a guy at a bar, right, and it's mobbed, and he's like it's 4 deep, he can't get to the bar, but he keeps noticing out of the corner of his eye the guy in the corner, right? Amazing physique, right? Beautiful Italian suit. His head's like an orange. Like an actual orange, featureless orange, right? So he's trying not to look, obviously. But so eventually he gets to the bar and he's just about to order. Gets a tap on the shoulder. It's the guy. He says, "Ask me." He said, "What?" He says, "That's all you're looking. No, you can ask me." He said, "You can ask me." He said, "Right, what's the story here?" He says, "Well, it was a year ago. I'm quite a keen hill climber, so I was tackling this Munro. I was halfway up. I thought time for a lunch break, so I sat down and I got my wee flask out and my packed lunch, and I dropped my flask and it rolled under a rock. So I'm scrabbling out to get the flask. I pull it out. It's a lamp. It's a bit mucky, so I get a wee buff. Genie comes out, and he said 3 wishes. He said, "Fuck off!" No, 3 wishes. He said, "Okay, right. All right, no pressure. Right, okay, right. First wish. I've always been a bit kind of out of shape, so I want to be built like a decathlete, proper Daley Thompson." So he's like, "Your wish is my command." Pecs, ripped, biceps, quads, glutes, everything. He's buff as fuck. Oh, yes. He said, "What's your second wish, my master?" I said, "Well, I like my clothes, so I like my suits. How about a perfectly cut Italian suit every day for the rest of my life? Your wish is my command." It's got this beautiful charcoal grey, beautiful pinstripe, fits in perfectly. It's wonderful. It's that grand worth of suit. Lovely material, looking amazing. And then the guy has a drink, right? And the other guy says, "So, the fuck was your third wish?" He says, "Yeah, I asked for a head like an orange." Right, so your reaction is interesting because what that joke is, it's people are expecting the pun.
Yeah.
It's like the being the hum like a darky thing.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no pun.
I was like, right, scan no pun. Scan for something clever. Scan, no, it's just about confounding expectations.
Yes. And that joke, honestly, it just gets such extreme reactions. There's some people that don't even realise that you're deconstructing a form. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the other joke about the one about the guy that he goes to the circus. So, fuck, we tell this. Guy's driving home from his work, right, and he sees a sign for the circus.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been to the circus for years. I haven't been since I was a kid. So he takes the next exit and he goes and sits and he kind of the smells and everything. He takes him back to being a kid, right? And then on comes the ringmaster and on comes the animals and the jugglers and the acrobats, and it's loving it. It's brilliant. And then, ladies and gentlemen, here come the clowns. Oh, it's his favourite. It's the clowns. So the clowns come on with the buckets of water and the custard pies and the unicycles and all that. And then everything stops, and the head clown says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we need a volunteer," right? So all the lights go whizzing around. He's like, "Oh, pick me, pick me, pick me." So the light goes on him, and the clown says, "Ah, sir, are you the front end of a donkey?" He goes, "No." "Are you the back end of a donkey?" He says, "No." "Ladies and gentlemen, this man is no end of an ass." He's completely humiliated in front of all these people, so he sprints out, gets in his car, drives home, and goes to bed for 2 days, right? Utterly humiliated, right? So anyway, a year later, right, he's driving home from work again. He sees the sign again for the circus. Oh, let's go back. So he goes back, right? This man sits at the back, obviously, right? And it's the same deal, ringmaster and the elephants and the trapeze artists and the tumblers and all that going on. "Ladies and gentlemen, here come the clowns." So he sinks in the seat, right? And the clowns come on with the buckets of water and the custard pies and the unicycles. "Ladies and gentlemen, we need a volunteer." The lights go whizzing around. Sink, sink, sink. Ka-choom! Oh, for fuck's sake. So he just stands up like really half-arsed. "Sir, are you the front of a donkey?" "No." "Are you the back?" "No." "Ladies and gentlemen, this man is no end of an ass." Runs back in his car, goes home, resigns from his work, gets a payoff, sells his flat. He finds a course for comedy. So there's a university course in Strasbourg, right? 3 years, every aspect of comedy, right? Basically leaves his life in Scotland and goes to Strasbourg, and he goes there for 3 years to Strasbourg, and because he's so motivated, he aces everything, right? So he's a top student in the first year with honours in sarcasm. He aces the second year, ironing slapstick. Third year, he's the best student they've ever had. He's winning every single award, right? So then he comes back to Scotland looking for the circus, drives about, finds it, squeals at the car park, sits front and centre. On comes the ringmaster, the usual deal, elephants, trapeze artists, tumblers, acrobats, da-da-da-da. Ladies and gentlemen, here come the clowns. Fucking bring it. So the clowns come on, usual thing, buckets of water, all the rest of it. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a volunteer. He stands bolt upright. The lights go whizzing around. On him. "Ah, sir, are you the front of a donkey?" He says, "No, fuck you, you red-nosed cunt." That got a laugh. So, it's the confounding expectation and the pattern thing. And, obviously the comedy rule of three is well established and it is very satisfying.
Yeah.
Although it's a cliche, you need the rule of three or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I found out doing that podcast is, why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side? Do you know why that's a joke? Everyone just assumes it's a joke, but they don't know why.
I don't think I've ever really thought about it.
Because it's received wisdom that that's a joke.
Yeah.
But why is it funny? It's not, is it?
No.
But it's like an orphan joke, because it was a joke once upon a time, because when that joke was originated, it was when, I think, Edwardian times, I could be wrong, but basically everyone believed in God.
Yeah.
Everyone was a Christian in Britain.
Oh, the other side.
Is to get to heaven.
So it was basically killing itself.
Yeah. I don't know why chicken.
Yeah.
That's still unexplained. But there was a double meaning once upon a time.
Wow, yeah, to get to the other side, of course.
No, it's not the best joke in the world, but at least it's a joke now.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that for many years.
There's a lot of people who do the kind of slightly weird, almost anti-humour that I got into. Like Tim Heidecker or Lemmy.
Aye.
And they talk about, you get all your postmodern stuff like Monty Python, where it's weird. It's funny because it's weird.
Yeah.
Because the straight stuff's all been done. Everything's been done twice.
Yeah.
And they kind of talk about, well, where do you go after that? And I think everyone has that problem, but stand-ups get around it by being themselves.
Yes.
And being topical.
Yeah.
Because no one else is you.
Exactly.
And everything that's happened recently is fair game.
Yeah.
And constantly refreshes.
Yeah, exactly, and new.
But the interpretation of it is jazz, I think, is a great description of some of Lemmy's stuff.
Yeah.
Where the expectations are, it's not like your son's joke where the expectation is so confounded that it's not connected anymore.
Yeah.
But it's very tenuous. It's like a right angle almost.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I can barely keep up. And some people don't keep up. Some people don't like Lemmy.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
really don't like Lemmy.
Yeah.
But he's, you know, one of my favourites
Oh
of
God,
all
yeah.
time.
Yeah. Also, it's also when he makes an observation that's so niche, like the whole Dan and Danone thing,
Yeah.
that he had the fucking wherewithal to chase that down.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. It's no mistake. Danone. I just loved how far he went with that.
Yeah.
But you know, you're absolutely. But also, you know, when he tells like one of my favourite Lemmy things is when he takes the postcard to the travel agent and says, "I want to go to Millport."
Yeah.
And he tells that big story, and she just says, "We don't go there."
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. No, I don't want to go. I want to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That whole thing about the glass contact lenses. Yes. Why are you listening to this? Why am I telling you this? What's the matter with us? Yeah. I mean, I know when people say comedy's brave, it's not fucking brave. It's not running into a building and rescuing a baby. But fucking, I think, I don't know whether that comes from the fact that, because this observation has been made about Chris Morris, is that he didn't ever work with an audience. Mm-hmm. He did this comedy on the radio. Mm-hmm. So, and Lemmy, I guess, before he ever did any live work, was doing the stuff online.
Yeah.
So you're not beholden to an audience, and you can maybe go really, really niche and just please yourself.
Yeah.
And it's the best way of doing it. Because I went to see Lemmy doing Lemmy's Vines. So
Me too. That was a good show.
He basically attracted this huge audience.
Yeah.
By being 100% himself,
Yeah.
not having to worry about them. Then he's in a room full of them, and he's still getting that reaction.
Yeah.
It's the best of both worlds, isn't it?
Yeah. He's really good with a crowd as well.
Yeah, and he's very personable. He just is.
And funny.
Aye.
Down to earth.
Yes, exactly. He was. I went to see him. He was publicising. He was doing his book launch at the Armore. Mm-hmm. Do you know that he was meant to be in the Black Mirror, the Bandersnatch?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know that him and Charlie Brooker are friends.
Yeah, so Charlie Brooker had said if you wanted to be the gamer, you know, the ultimate gamer guy.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it because he was doing a tour.
Wow.
So he would have been the guy that, what's his name, the brilliant actor.
Is it the one that was in Son of Rambo?
Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was the one that he was going to play. I mean, he did a brilliant job, but that would have been Lemmy.
That's funny.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
So the whole depression comedy thing, I think that we are just, and I don't even know what the reason is. I think that we are more disposed to it. So I think it's cause and not effect. Mm-hmm. But someone, I can't remember who, did a really good explanation about why when you see someone doing stand up and you assume they're the most confident person in the world, actually it's because they're the least. But what it is I'm paraphrasing wildly and possibly getting it wrong, it's something to do with when you're very shy and you aren't particularly not great with people, and you're at a party, you can't really control what's going on.
Yeah.
But if you're the guy with the mic, then you can. You're having an element of control. It seems counterintuitive that you would seek
you go that far off the deep end.
And so stand-up's something I've shied away from. Utterly shattered from stand-up. But I don't know how you do it.
Well, it's intense, man. It's like, I suppose you learn that dying a death is just is the thing. You know, that's how you get through
I think that's my
stuff.
issue is that I because I'm a people pleaser, I can't even do that bit, which is the bit you need.
Yeah, I mean, it was a problem for me because when I struck on a way of delivering the material that went across well, and material that went across well, I didn't want to die anymore. Yeah. And some people are much better at just accepting that that's going to happen. Yeah. Whereas I didn't really like doing new material so much, and I think but that's really what loosens people up.
Yeah. Do you know, I was watching last night, weirdly, right, with the kids, Toy Cooper, who I adore. Tommy Cooper, I think, is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the best lines ever.
But even he would do stuff that would die in its arse, and he fucking used it.
Yeah.
He was walking into blind alleys all the time. He did this whole thing. We kind of went down a bit of a YouTube hole, and so he had all this table of tricks lined up, and he had this plank like that on a fulcrum.
Yeah.
And at 3 points during the act, he walked along the plank and did a line from Wordsworth or Longfellow or something. Did a line to nothing, and just went, hey, did some tricks, and then went round, did another line. Yeah. And there was no end point to it. He just did it 3 times for no fucking reason at all.
I love that stuff.
I'm thinking
so
that's
much.
like Andy Kaufman or something. He's just fucking doesn't care. I mean, again though, I mean, obviously he wasn't after silence.
Yeah.
But then he knew he could just do a bit of that, and he just what he had. I wish I had a tenth of it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That physicality is beautiful, and watching my wee boy laughing his head off as well, because you're a bit worried. You think, is it just me? But no, everyone loved Tommy Cooper. But
yeah,
he was really, really ahead of, like, in the same way that Chick Murray, I think, was way ahead of his time with the surrealism.
Yeah.
And doing those lines, I mean, very sophisticated stuff.
Yeah, Chick Murray's great.
But so Tommy Cooper's jokes, it hurts when I do that, don't do that then. No one else is doing jokes like that, I don't think, at the time. Very, very sophisticated. But yeah, I think, I'm sure there's 20 PhDs right now being done about the links between depression and comedy, and and it's what's really crap is when you're down that well and you just don't feel funny.
Yeah,
it's just the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, it's brutal.
When you think you found on something you're good at, and then even that weapon's taken off you. Horrible feeling.
Yeah, it's
horrible
brutal.
Feeling.
It used to come along worse for me in the winter for sure. I used to fear the winter.
Yeah,
it was interesting. Like when I changed what I was doing, what I mentioned earlier, and noticed a marked improvement in my mood. That was in 2016, quite early in the year, and then I kind of thought, well, maybe it's just I'm having a good year. Maybe I'm having a good time, and it's the summer, and then so I'll enjoy it. And then it kind of got into the autumn, and I started to fear the winter coming again, because I thought, well, here we go again, and it just didn't come. It just didn't come. So it was the first winter that I'd had probably since I was kind of mid-teens. I remember this sort of thing happening 14, 15, where I didn't need to pretend that I was all right.
Yeah,
paint a smile on it. So it was like, there's ups and downs obviously, but I was basically feeling fine.
Yeah, and
that was very powerful. And it was actually at the end of 2016 that I stopped doing stand-up, because I've done I did a couple of sketch things for the BBC online since, but for some reason I didn't feel as compelled to express myself in that way anymore. Strange.
That is, but you're not. Are you doing comedic stuff?
So the last thing I did was for BBC Online with my friend Stephen Buchanan, who won the BBC New Comedy Award last year. Really, really funny. And I was trying to bask in his reflected glory. And we did this. We wrote this thing. It was for short stuff, so it has to be within 90 seconds, right? So it was a bit ambitious for 90 seconds, but the idea was we go out and get so hammered, and you see how much money we're spending. There's like a money ticker in the corner. And we wake up and we're super hungover, and we think, what could we have done with that money? Could have gone on holiday for that.
Yeah.
And then we look at each other, and then we actually do. So we went to Berlin and we filmed this whole thing with the ticker, and it was good fun and everything, but something happened and it didn't go out. But that was the last thing we did. I think that was April last year. So I have been keeping my hand in. But since my business really kind of I don't know, like it ended up taking up all my time, and I decided to do stuff like this, which was like a way of channeling, I suppose, my whatever creativity I've got into something that I'm specifically passionate about now. So I still love comedy, and I still want to create stuff that can make people laugh, but I just feel like making it all kind of pole-faced evangelical stuff about food now for some reason. I guess it's like it's a semi-religious conversion.
Yeah.
You know, where something that was such a profound change for me that I just
You can't
it
not
is
tell
me
people.
now.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what I want is to get people on who either have a sort of resonant experience around the stuff that I've experienced, or have something to say about food, or have, you know, just something to say, and you know, let people who've been through stuff like that as well kind of pick up on it and go, well, okay, I'm not alone, or well, here's what I can do to help, or, you know, here's how I get into comedy.
Yeah. Well, my advice is start a medical degree. Yeah. No, it's yeah. When I think as well of how I'm, you know, I mean, thinking I've got a good work ethic, and I do work hard, but in terms of actually setting a goal and attaining it, I've never done that. Mm-hmm. I mean, what I will do is sometimes try and push myself out of my comfort zone. I got involved in a musical project, which was really interesting, which is a thing called the Grand Gestures.
Oh yeah.
So
you appear with them at was it the Barrowlands?
Yeah, it was King Tut's.
King Tut's.
Did, and we did a couple. We did it at the CCA as well, and we did it at down in what do you call it, down south in London. I can't remember the name of the venue. Really cool venue, but it was kind of darkly comedic songs that I knew because I love my music. That was a fun thing to get involved with, and what it means is that me and Jan Burnett, who is the Grand Gestures, so basically he does all the music and then gets people to write and record the lyrics. So I'm one of the sort of revolving door sort of thing. Between us, we've put together, I think, 6, 7, 8 songs. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, maybe there's a show there that I could do, like a one-man show where I take the songs that I've done, and they can be the spine of a show. Maybe, because
I did a musical at the Fringe.
Did you?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, was that the Coke, the Shandy?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was about my abusive relationship with my pet clown. Yeah, mixed reviews. I think it came out of the oven a little early. I think I've got this niggling thing where I really want to revisit Shandy. Yeah. And do it bigger, better. Yeah. But that's what you learn, I think, is that you need previews for Edinburgh. Yeah. That's what all the you know, there's this joke that Mark Nelson, the comedian, does every year, the day after the Fringe finishes, where he says, good luck to all the English comedians on their first preview tonight for next year's Fringe. Because they are starting in January with the previews. Yeah. And it shows, you know, you go and see a show on the first day of the Fringe and, you know, it's really polished. Makes all the difference. 'Cause that's when the reviewers are coming in. Yeah. So, I mean, I was lucky to get reviewed at all, but it wasn't until later on in the run when I'd sort of done a lot of work on the show that I could have done beforehand. Yeah. Where I started to get decent reviews and people were like, "Oh, yeah, that was really funny." Yeah. At first they were like, "What is wrong with you? Your abusive relationship with your pet clown. You need to like lighten the mood in here slightly." But
so what happened? Were you sort of framing it slightly differently as the run went on, or?
Yeah, like I basically upped the gag rate. So there was like a real thematic gag in the fact that it was this abusive relationship with my pet clown, and I played myself and the clown. Yeah. And I loved the songs. I thought there was a lot of funny bits in the songs, but it was a bit heartfelt too. But the problem was the connective tissue. So the nod and the wink wasn't there. Yeah. You know, so people didn't know whether I was just like really kind of unwell or whether I was actually doing a sort of meta thing. Aye. And so over the month of the Fringe, I sort of realised it needed to be broken down and built back up again. And so by the end, there was all these like little nods and winks and little asides, and it meant there was a laugh. You know, you want a laugh every 20 seconds really.
Yeah.
And I don't think I got to that sort of hit rate, but that's what it needed. And so it could have done with 30 previews instead of.
Well, it sounds like you did your
that
preview. Sounds like that. You know what I mean? That you should definitely bring it back.
Yeah, well, the songs are there, and I don't think Shandy's dead. I think
couldn't you build Shandy up in the consciousness through a podcast and then?
Yeah, I mean, who knows whether Shandy seems like some sort of fever dream now, but maybe he's a real. Well, I mean, a clown's not a person really, but maybe he's a real animal. Who's out there, roaming the streets at night.
Like Frank Sidebottom was
yes.
an actual
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And not like it, I don't think Shandy is malevolent. I think he's wretched and dirty.
Yeah.
And like he's not like Krusty the Clown either, so you couldn't like wash his face.
Aye.
And there would be a person there.
Yeah.
It's indelible.
Yeah.
Like he is of the genus clown.
Yes.
I'm not even sure if he can talk, but he can sing, and I mean, I really like it. I think there's more fun to be had with it. So maybe when my business is sort of taking care of itself,
yeah,
I'll revisit Shandy.
Either that, you've got a lovely maitre d', lovely welcoming maitre d'.
Yeah, I mean, some people just get quite frightened by the idea, I think. I mean, that's what clowns are all about, really, isn't it? It's a frightening part of our subconscious.
Yeah. Yes. Which is why it was so successful. I mean, Christ's sake, yeah.
Yeah, I really like the new one, actually.
Yeah.
I went to see it partly just out of respect for Shandy. To see if... Because I think Shandy's probably like... I think Shandy would be on the side of the children. I think Shandy's scared of something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what, though. I had this line about how he was afraid of peaches because he was unable to pass the seeds. And I don't know, he's just this little sort of dog character that I love thinking about. But it's very, very strange.
But dog in the sense of that fidelity and that kind of blind
very
love.
Much so, yeah. And
it's not a cat then, a dog. Aye.
Not a cat. And I think my character of me in the show almost hated Shandy for that loyalty.
Yeah.
Wanted to reject him.
Yes. But want to set Shandy free.
Yeah, but then regretted it and wanted him to come back.
So what's symbiotic then?
Yeah, very much so.
It was actually steptoe and son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, honestly, like I felt a bit after I did the last stand-up show that I did at the end of 2016, almost felt like Shandy sort of slunk away a bit. That was part of me. It was like an embodiment of the part of me that was maybe a bit kind of depressed and.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. But you're back at the Fringe, aren't you? You're doing the Fringe this year.
First time I've ever done the Fringe.
What's the first time you ever? I got confused because you were in a film that took place in the Fringe. The Cold Festival.
Right. Festival, yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is the first time I'm doing the Fringe properly. I mean, I've done a couple of wee guesty things for one-off shows, but I've never done.
You're doing Fags, Mags, and Bags.
Yeah, we're doing an hour-long version of an episode, basically.
Which venue?
So at the Udderbelly.
Cool.
Which is completely fortuitous. What I had, we've been talking about doing it as a live show for a while because we had done 5 series of the show and it had gone very well. It won a couple of awards, got nominated for stuff. It seemed to be well liked by Radio 4, and we could tell from our Facebook page that we had a hardcore following, which is lovely.
Some classic lines from it and themes. You talk about the wall of crisps.
Yeah, well, the wall of crisps is just any newsagent's confectionery you go into, there's a wall of crisps, and it's
or chips for the American listeners.
Or chips for the American listeners, and also if you Google fags, mags, and bags, there's an asterisk on the first A because fags means something different in America.
Of course.
So I'll take any demographic. But so the wall of crisps is usually 5x5, 6x6. It's usually square, but it can be oblong because I like to say the word oblong. And I'm always fascinated by the psychology or lack of psychology and how the thing is set up. So if I was setting up a wall of crisps, I would want my adult crisps, my sexy crisps at eye level.
Your Brannigans.
Your Brannigans, your McCoys, anything ridged.
Yeah.
Anything puckered in any way. Your Brannigans. Do they still do Brannigans, by the way? A ham and mustard Brannigan, I would bite your head off for.
See, I am both low carb and don't eat veg oil. And unfortunately, almost all crisps
are your enemy.
Are fried in veg oil.
What crisps can you eat?
So I don't really eat any unless I've sort of made them myself. And then, like, I would have, those vegetable crisps you can get, which are quite nice. I don't really make them, but if I was going to do it, then I would probably just like shave those types of veg thin, and then
Did you bake them?
I'd probably fry it in beef dripping.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you could do beef chicken but not veg oil.
Yeah, veg oil is like we've had a guy on who's, I've not released the episode yet, but a guy called Tucker Goodrich. It's the most American name ever,
Yes.
and he's a really nice guy, and he's like a citizen scientist, so he's like a Wall Street tech guru whose health was like in the gutter, and like he had strokes in his 30s and stuff
Jesus.
like that, and he worked out that, and it was like 16 years worth of IBS, and he stopped eating veg oil, which is everywhere, and within 3 days his IBS of 16 years cleared up.
Whoa.
So he was like, wow, it's such a powerful effect. So he started checking it all out. Really interesting episode. Is like I find it hard to I can't find anything wrong with his research. It seems like if you introduce veg oil to populations, then they start living like 10, 20 years less.
Wow.
It's really nasty stuff, and you don't need much of it to be extremely toxic. So I'm like pretty gutted, to be honest, because basically crisps, any commercial baked goods, they don't use beef dripping or shortening anymore because there's a lot of veggies about. So it's just easier for companies to use veg oil, and more and more people know how bad it is, but it's not as well known yet as it will be.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I don't eat crisps at all.
Wow.
And the wall of crisps used to be something that I loved.
Yeah. So, and we just have a lot of fun. So what I love about your New Zealanders is it's, you'll go into one at least once a week, if not every day. So it's a very everyday quotidian experience. But then, you look at the wall, we make up crisps, like things like, chutney windmills and chicken athletes.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. Spring onion tricycles. It's like you never question these, and also you look at the chocolates and
you think about the actual ones. Space Raiders.
Yeah.
Why on Earth?
Why so many space themed chocolates as well? Galaxy, Mars, Milky Way.
Yeah.
What's
is it like aspirational chocolate bars?
We did this whole thing about Alok, who's kind of the sun, and he's like the brown Richard Branson. So he's trying to market his own chocolate bar, which is called Aspirations. You can't sell them; they're too aspirational. It's too on the nose. And he ends up paying someone to come in and buy the Aspirations bar. Turns out that guy was the guy that collected the trolleys at Sainsbury's. He's the least aspirational man in Lenza. So I love the whole thing about this, like chocolate tools. It's quite surreal, you miniaturize a tractor, and chocolate. That's quite a heavy concept, and yet this seems to just be accepted.
Yeah.
So I like the counterbalance between the two, and just the fact that because it is such a cozy environment, we can sort of deal with stuff like racism, or we're doing some stuff on like. It's really difficult. The whole gender thing at the minute, which is obviously explosive, it's actually really hard, because even if you're being well intentioned, you can easily. It's like we talked before. You can just say the wrong thing. Yeah. But I'd like to think that we can tackle most of the big issues, but through this really, really, really microcosm of shop, and have a lot of fun with it. So every
sitcom needs a universe.
Yeah.
And somewhere to hang your hat.
Totally.
And the more recognisable, the better. The Simpsons is just a really good sketch show,
Yeah.
but everyone has a family.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And
Someone, a couple of people really, I mean, it's really flattering, but compared us to The Simpsons, which I thought was lovely because there's not many higher accolades.
Indeed.
So we'd done 5 series, gone really well, and then Radio 4 decided to pull it. And we were a bit baffled, but we thought,
Boo.
Run of 5 is pretty good. But then we're looking at other sitcoms that we were being bracketed with, and they were getting 9, 10, 11 series.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, there's no point moaning about it. And then the whole time we thought, well, it seems like an obvious that it could be adapted for the TV. You know, we'd have to tailor it, but the whole thing about, I think it could be very visual because the wall of crisps itself, or the chocolate stanchion, or the Carr, all these things are quite visual. And the fact is that people, if you walk in a shop like that, you kind of know the setup. You know, you instinctively know where the pot noodles or the shoelaces are going to be. You kind of know. So I think it's like it's home from home for people. So I'm thinking, well, the whole time we thought this is a possible telly transfer, but we couldn't seem to get the right people interested. So the producer said, well, maybe it's because it's not an audience show. It's one of the few non-audience shows, comedy shows on Radio 4. Maybe commissioners just need to hear people laughing.
Yeah, I think there's a big thing about that.
Yeah.
And I felt like a vibe off a lot of producers around stand-ups is that they don't know whether stand-ups are funny.
They don't trust their own judgment. That's the
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
So they want to see them in front of an audience and go, right, okay, I do think this person's funny, but so do they. All right, okay, now I can make something.
Which is, they should just trust their own judgment. But
yeah.
So we thought, well, why don't we take 2 existing scripts and we'll just do it as a live radio show.
Yep.
Scripts in hand. We won't have any props, no set design, nothing like that. Hire on more. We did 2 episodes from series 5, and it was free, ticketed, but it was free.
Yeah.
And people came from Brighton.
Wow.
For this, and we're thinking, fuck, okay, this is just an exercise.
Yeah.
And when we started doing Fags, Mags and Bags, the producer at the time, he said, look, guys, are you sure you don't want an audience for this?
Yeah.
I said, I'm 1,000% sure, because I want to batter through it. I don't want a pause for a laugh that may or may not come.
Yeah.
I want to be quite niche. I want to be self-indulgent. I want to make myself laugh and Donnie. I want to batter through it. I find a lot of Radio 4 comedy quite sluggish and quite pleased with itself because it's waiting for the laugh, which doesn't deserve to be there. Whereas with this, if you're sitting at home chuckling, you might be laughing, you might not be, but we're not going to hang about.
Yes.
So
and with a lot of the stuff on the BBC, it's not their fault, but you do get free laughter because people come in to a banner show in the BBC and they're ready to laugh.
Yeah, totally.
It's great. If you're performing at something like that, fantastic. Like actually, I did a show for your brother Hardy at the Fringe, which he was really nice to get me on because he'd never seen me before. And before I went on, he went, "Have a good gig. You better be fucking funny." Because he was having a laugh with me.
Yeah.
But he also meant it.
Yes.
But it was the BBC. It was the BBC tent at the Fringe.
Yeah.
500 or 600 people, and they're like, okay, well this must be funny because I'm at the BBC.
Yeah.
And it's great, but you don't really know whether you're doing it.
Yeah. It could give you a false sense of perspective. So we did these 2.5 hours and it couldn't have gone better. And I'm thinking, God, these really niche observations are getting massive laughs. And from that moment on, I thought this should be a live show at some point. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of years ago, I was comparing Hogmanay at Edinburgh. Quite a big deal.
Yeah, how many people are there?
Well, I think in Edinburgh itself about 70,000 people. I mean, the thing is that I never saw them all. Obviously, I was hosting it, so I was on the screens, kind of linking the whole night. Yeah, it was fine. But it was the Underbelly guys that were producing it.
Right.
So that's how I sort of made contact with them. And I had a conversation with them and I said, look, I do this radio show. And he said, we should have a chat about that. Yeah. And then they came back and said, right, we've got a venue for you.
Fantastic.
So really lucky because like, you know what the festival's like. It's you're lucky to make any money. I mean, at least
Sure.
you know we're making some money, not big money, but you know we can do this. And I'm really keen to do it. I'm not in it for the money. I'm really keen to do it, but it's also nice to know that you're not losing money out of it.
Yes.
So yeah, we're doing an hour-long version of an existing script. We're going to do it scripts in hand. So I think people want to see the radio show. They don't want a theatrical production as such.
Okay, yeah.
Because they want to do, they know what they know, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. I like that. It's kind of, there's a sort of nice behind the
Totally.
curtain thing.
Oh no,
to
they,
it.
they feel included and they feel invited.
Yeah.
and
And
they
it
like
also
that.
also takes it down a peg in terms of the tension in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
You know, it's like if the sort of, I think that's one reason that Lemmy can just be so stream of consciousness about what he puts out, is because he's not being highfalutin. He's not putting on big production values, because I think the more production value you have, the bigger the expectation in the moment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean the stuff's any less funny. It's just that it's almost like the tall poppy thing. Like people think,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
oh, who do they think they are?
Of course, especially here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really cool.
So we'll see how it goes. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm really excited about it. I don't do a huge amount of live stuff, so you know, it's something I should probably be doing more of. But you know, we'll see how it goes. But no, I'm excited, definitely.
Great.
Yeah.
I think that was all I wanted to really talk to you about. I kind of, I really wanted to get you on because I'd like to get funny people that I know to come on and have a proper chat.
Yeah.
I did try to make it about food a little bit, but I didn't try that hard because I'm not sure how much you really
Well, I mean,
think about it.
I had a thing a few years ago where I was 39 years old and I was getting chest pains.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's not good. Could start here.
Is this what you were telling me about earlier?
Yeah, and I get here.
Yeah.
And
So it was like in your jaw, in your chest.
yeah.
When you were lying down.
Yeah, also, and sometimes here as well. And that all just felt like something vascular, you know what I mean? It didn't, you know? And
Quite worrying to suddenly
yeah,
get that.
and with my 3 months of medical training, yeah, which I focused specifically on the nipple band. Genuinely, it was the thorax and abdomen was the only bit I did. And so I went to my GP and she said, well, okay, let's get you checked out. You're 39, it's probably good time to get an MOT done anyway. So
Yeah.
I got like a ECG, breast ECG, a treadmill ECG,
Yeah.
NMR, a few things. The only thing that came up was that my ECG was fine, but my cholesterol was high side of normal.
Uh-huh.
The thing was, I've always carried a little bit of weight, not much.
Uh-huh.
But I thought maybe it's time to tackle my diet because I don't really properly look at my diet. And
Yeah.
you know, the only thing I'd really attempt, you know, I'd try these fatty diets every now and then.
Yeah.
I tried the Atkins a couple of times. What I did was I thought, well, you know, you've been given, you know, the Cosmos has sent you a message to have a proper look at what you're eating. And I really just cut out shite, crisps, chocolates and stuff. Tried to cut out as much bread as I could.
Yeah.
To the point where I think after 3 or 4 months, I remember opening the bread bin at home and having a wave of nausea.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So I was talking to my old professor, Ken Strain, who partly got me onto the low carb thing. He healed himself from chronic fatigue syndrome, ME.
Okay.
Basically told he wasn't going to work again in his early 40s. Researched it. 6 months later, he was doing 10Ks.
Oh.
And he found the same thing with fruit juice.
Oh.
That he got nauseated looking at the billboards for Tropicana or whatever.
What?
And I got the same thing that you're talking about with bread. I looked at it and it was like, what is this dusty disc? You know, it's almost like you lose that connection of feeling like it's food.
Aye. So in that year, I lost nearly 3 stone.
Whoa.
And I didn't think I had that in me because I would go to the weight
You're a bit
machine.
like me. You're not I don't think you've ever looked fat.
Yeah.
But there's quite a lot that you can pile on.
It tends to go here.
Covertly. Me too. Yeah, like round the midriff.
Well, I'm Punjabi, so there's a Punjabi build, and I always call it's like a potato with 4 toothpicks poked in it. Very skinny limbs, but it all goes here.
Yeah,
Kind of.
I was a bit like that, so I don't know if there's some Punjabi there, but
Well, you've done more Bollywood than me, and you. So I mean, it got to the stage a taxi driver asked me if I was unwell.
really,
Yeah.
that's the dream, isn't it?
That is the dream, and the dream is also to lean over and say it's the size of a tangerine. But I didn't. Of course I didn't. I don't know whether he was going down the AIDS or cancer route. I'm not sure, but I thought I fucking knocked it off. But other people were saying, someone actually a neighbour said, "Don't lose any more weight." Just maybe looking nearly haggard. But
I think that happened to me when I first started losing weight. That certain people didn't like it for some reason. Like, you know, it's a bit like that. Once you're branded a certain thing in school, that's it.
Yeah.
And people get freaked out by change in the positive direction. There's no doubt.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember going in to Zara, clothes shop, and buying a medium shirt in Zara, and that was a moment.
Yeah.
I thought, what the fuck? And I can't fit that shirt anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm maybe half a stone or a stone heavier than I'd really, really want to be. But I'm all right though. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still playing football and going to the gym and stuff. So
Yeah.
With Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Gary.
I know you know Gary because he's been eating your food
Yes.
and raving about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gary's a really interesting guy. Gary Goldie, personal trainer, extraordinaire, and amazing runner.
Oh God,
He'll do a marathon and then sit down for 5 minutes, have a cup of tea, and do a 10k.
No, he did that with me because I did my first official 10k a couple of years ago, and he ran it with me to pace
Congrats.
me, ran back, and then did the half marathon with his other client Jamie.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's mental. He's in the army and stuff. I mean, he's fit as several fleas inside a fiddle. So it's funny. Gary will talk about how he's got a bit of a belly, and he says, "I know I'm not the best walking advert for, but I mean I've seen him run. Oh my God, I mean he's fit as anything."
Well, it's getting more socially acceptable within comedy circles to be fit and healthy. People are starting to do shows about how they're coming off the drink and getting running and stuff like that. But like my perception of what was cool was like George Carlin talking about not going to the gym because his motto was no pain, no pain.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll, really.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and then you think, okay, but yeah, I know. I mean, Bill Hicks was sort of the same, wasn't he? I mean, it was almost like it had to be part of the lifestyle that you just treat your body like shit.
Yeah. Oh, you smoke a pack and a half a day. I go through 2 lighters. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But I've always been. I mean, part of it's vanity. I mean, I still want to shop in Topshop, and I still like my clothes, and I don't.
For sure. I thought that was actually a big reason for me to try low carb, because I've tried paleo and it didn't really help with the weight. So I thought, well, low carb sort of Atkins style thing helped with the weight, and it did. The weight melted off, and it has stayed off. But my depression lifted, my anxiety lifted. My heartburn went away, all these digestive problems. I could sleep flat for the first time in years. Just all these amazing things.
Heartburn's something used to plague me.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of people find that if they cut starchy carbs out, then it just goes away.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, really. And the problem is, and it is a problem, is that I'm a bit of an absolutist, so I do it full bore, and that's why I get all the intense benefits. But also, when I communicate those benefits to other people, they think there's no way that it does all that stuff. There's no way that it's that effective, because it just sounds like I'm being religious about it. So it's a kind of you're caught between a rock and a hard place, because all you can say is the truth, but then it doesn't sound like the truth.
But then you're the living proof.
Yeah, that's it. And it's for me, it's changed my life, and it's a really good thing. And I think individuals do this stuff in different ways, and you've obviously had some success with it in the past, and if you get backed into a corner again with that stuff, you at least know what to do.
Yeah. Although I have tried, and I've never been able to stick to it the same way I did the first time around.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that happens, I don't know if you find this, that when I am depressed, I go off my food
Interesting.
and I lose weight, But that's the thing, is you're thinking to yourself, right, okay, do you want to be miserable and have a
Yeah.
30-inch waist?
Yeah.
Or, play those games yourself, or would you rather be fat and happy? But I do, that's one of the things that happens. That's when, my wife notices,
Yeah.
because I love my grub. So if I'm off my food, something's clearly
Wow.
wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a doctor on. She says she's going to come on when our new paper gets released, and she's a psychiatrist who specialises in eating disorders.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really keen to hear her opinion. I mean, she thinks that eating a kind of low carb type diet is really good, but I'm keen to hear her opinion on the sort of split between, the contribution to mental health. Some of it's what you put in your body. I mean, of course it is, because it's what you're made of, and it's if you're taking booze and drugs all the time or smoking all the time, of course it's going to affect your mental health to some degree. But then there's a psychological component. So if your mindset is somehow that you feel down on yourself, then that's a separate thing. It's not. I'm not saying that you can. Anyone can just change what they eat and that suddenly their life's better. If you've got certain psychological issues, and it's not necessarily gonna affect it. And then there's social stuff too. If you're socially isolated, it doesn't matter if you eat steak all the time.
Yeah,
you're still lonely, or whatever, or rejected, or scared, or whatever your social problem is. So I'm really keen to sort of parse out how helpful certain things can be.
Yeah.
But the sort of the cruel irony is that when you feel depressed, you don't feel like socializing, which could really help.
Yeah.
You don't feel like changing your mindset, which could really help, and you don't feel like eating properly.
Yeah. My main issue seems to be lack of motivation to do anything, and that I don't know whether that's linked to that feeling where because I mean I've got a career and I've got a family, so obviously that keeps you going in a way, but sometimes I just feel absolutely unmotivated to do anything else, and I wonder whether if I am feeling fitter and healthier, do I feel more motivated to do other stuff? Is it that positive cycle feedback thing? I don't know. But the irony is that when I was like my fighting weight, when I was not my fighting weight, but when I lost all that weight, I was down.
Right.
I wasn't in the best place mentally. So, but I don't think that was. I think I was just that way anyway, and it helped then that I was off my food. So I sometimes wonder whether I will ever be happy and slim. But yeah, it's that vegetable oil thing's very interesting though, because I didn't know that was so insidious and invidious.
There's a very deep correlation between vegetable oil intake on a population level and even things like homicide. And they've done some small but quite statistically significant and revealing studies in young offenders institutions. And I think the two that I'm thinking of were in the Netherlands, and they just gave them fish oil supplements. So basically, I think the idea is that omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats, so this vegetable oil has like much more in the way of omega-6 fats. They compete for use in the brain and in the skin and in the eye and all sorts of places. And their function's very specific and important. And if you overwhelm the omega-3 that's there with omega-6, then your body just uses omega-6, and it's much more volatile and prone to breaking down. And so if that's getting into your brain tissue and breaking down, then the speculation is that it can trigger these problems. And so in the Netherlands studies, they either gave the young offenders a placebo or fish oil, which is high in omega-3. and the rate of violent offences in the group that took the fish oil went down by, I want to say, tens of percent. It was really significant. It wasn't like, maybe it's a significant, it was really significant. And, you know, you look at on population levels, where populations eat lots of vegetable oil, like I was saying, they typically, you know, you can start knocking 10, 20 years off the life expectancy. And Tucker's the man. He goes through all of this, and I'm not sure when his episode's going to come out, but it's amazing stuff. And
no, I really always thought that crisps were way more evil than, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Than we give them credit for.
Yeah,
I've always thought that.
And the idea that a lot of issues, physical and mental, can come down to having constantly raised insulin levels, is something that comes up. And weirdly, you think something sweet spikes your insulin. That's something that people understand because your pancreas produces it to deal with the sweetness, to deal with the blood sugar, which is true. But if you eat vegetable oil, then it'll do the same thing. It'll stimulate hyperinsulinemia. So actually, I'm talking to a guy later on today who'll probably talk about this as well, a guy called Nick Mailer, who's a philosophy graduate who works, who's got an internet company, but this is another citizen scientist who's got some really fascinating stuff to say about that. And increasingly as well, doctors who I think sometimes don't have the time to do the research, but they try it out on patients, and they see the clinical difference, where sugar, veg oil, and refined flours get removed, and people's lives get turned around. You know, I mean, there's people who are right on the edge as well, like another person who I'm getting on, Amber O'Hearn. She's a computer scientist who has done a lot of research herself on this because she's got bipolar, and the only way that she can not feel symptoms of bipolar is by eating an extremely high fat diet. So no carbohydrates at all. So she just eats meat. She just eats fatty meat, and that's it. And she feels great as long as she does that. And there's other people online who are saying the same thing. And one of my favourites, Georgia Eade. She's a psychiatrist in Massachusetts, and she has switched over to an almost all animal diet, and she tries it on her patients too, suggests it to her patients, and a lot of them are finding that their mental health turns around completely. So it's remarkable. Some people don't need that, you know. Some people can even go like whole food plant based if there's some ethical reason that they don't want to eat animal stuff, and they can feel great like that. But bipolar is interesting. You know, it's one where the mechanism might be similar to epilepsy, in that there's some threshold in the brain that is tripped, and that might come out as a seizure in an epileptic, or a visual migraine in someone who has migraines, which can almost be stroke-like. And then someone who's got bipolar, they get a bipolar episode. And if you stay below that threshold, then no problems. And I don't know if you knew that the ketogenic diet was used to treat epilepsy for the last 100 years. That's originally what it was used for, in childhood epilepsy, before they had drugs. But even nowadays, if the drugs don't work, then the ketogenic diet does. So there's all these really fascinating kind of findings coming out, where sometimes the scientific literature is established, and sometimes people trying stuff out on themselves is way ahead. And I think that's what's so amazing about modern communication is, you wouldn't, if someone had happened upon this way of healing themselves in the past, they might have written a pamphlet or something.
And no one's going to see it.
No. Hundreds of people might have seen it and probably thought they were crazy. And, the double-edged sword of that is that if you start talking like this online, then you can sort of get lumped in with people who maybe are a little bit crazy, who are seeing things which are unfounded. So I want to be very careful about what I'm saying about all this.
Aye.
And
It's like you say, though, it's your personal testimony,
Yep.
and it's worked for you,
Yep.
and that's people can draw their own conclusions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting people on who have spent the time to look up the research so that people can go away and look at it themselves. It's funny though, it comes up again and again. People really just do want a shortcut. And they want to just say, okay, I trust that guru and that's fine. So yeah, okay, there's research, blah, 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 whatever. I trust you, so
Yeah.
that's fine. That's just human nature and everyone's busy. So, but that might be a good place to end.
Yes.
It's been really interesting.
No, it's been good fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Why don't you tell people where they can find you and about the show and anything else that you want them to know about?
You can. So we're going to be at the festival through Edinburgh at the Underbelly. I think we're on at 4:40 every day. I'm on Twitter at Govinda Jaggi.
Where's that name come from?
That comes from. So Donnie and I had a sketch show called Shredded Week, which was basically it was a listing show, but it was a sketch show dressed up as a listing show. So the idea was if you watch the show, we'd recommend a book, we'd recommend a play, and recommend a film, and we'd do a soaps roundup. It was all done in character. So before Ned's had properly been done on the telly, we were doing Alan and Govinda Jaggi, who were sort of Donnie was all right, was it all right, ladies? I'm Alan Jaggi, small blog Govinda. Wait. And we'd actually review plays that were on at the Tron and stuff, but we'd end up reviewing the toilets. Do you know okay, so mag fucking nothing. So I was Govinda Jaggi, so that's where that name comes from.
It's got a ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And yeah, that's it, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Nice one. Well, thanks again.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.
Cheers.